I'm Clint Culberson with lordsofconsciousness.com, and I am here with a very special guest, Miss Jacquie Chandler, otherwise known as Moonhair. And I'm here to talk about leather and water, because this woman right here is really an expert at both, and I'm really excited to talk to you about that. So how are you?
I'm grateful. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my service, which is to the water. And while my expertise is maybe in inspiring people to think about their relationship to the water and the natural world in general. And that's the work I've been doing with Mick Dodge as the co-creator of the practice we call the Earth Gym, which is to remind people that the earth, after all, is the gym where we've always trained. And once we step back into that, we can remember that. And the leather is what became known as brand on the TV show. But I've been doing what I call primal-design since I was probably 14 years old, which is to feel the fit. So how can you take your material and feel where it fits and where it doesn't, to just get it to fit just right, to get what you need, and trying to inspire that in other people. And that's what I'm here doing today at Unify Fest. Is I've been sharing, my service has been to help people create a festival pouch, medicine bag, something that will be meaningful to them, and get them to break it down, how things are constructed, so they can start deconstructing not only things but our culture and build a new story. That's my work.
And you do all of Mick Dodge's, not all of it, but most of his clothing, basically.
I do. We've been co-designing for a long time. Like, he has ideas, really creative ideas about how things might be. Like years ago, and like 20 years ago, why don't we use fleece bags? Or what if we could take something that would be, instead of sleeping bags, roll up sheepskin, put it on the back, and then have it tied to a backpack that hooks onto a vest? And he'd come up with these things, and I'm really good at manifesting from imagination. So he would start imagining stuff, and I would start building on that imagination. So we co-created stuff, and then I had my own style, and he liked it. And so he would sort of, what about a little bit more this way, and what about tunics? And he really likes the Lord of the Rings look with the big capes. So he would say bigger, bigger, and I craft, and then I add my piece into it. So we've sort of co-created together, but yes, I have been structurally the one that's made most of the clothes. And then I showed him how to do stuff, and he made his pants on a couple of his items, and that beaver suit he wore on the TV show. And then Carl is the other guy that creates the bulletproof, the weapon concealment stuff. I don't do weapon concealment. I'm all about exposure, transparency, and clarity.
Yeah. So, you've been doing these workshops here at Unify Fest, and you'd think to be able to make leather shoes or leather pouches, it would take many years of practice and, understanding of that kind of work. But you're having people turn around and making shoes in one day, for crying out loud.
I know.
What are people tend to probably have fear over this idea of like going back and making our own type of clothing, but how can they overcome that fear, and how can they can you tell us why it's so easy? I mean, not so easy, but you know what I mean.
No, but it is easy because we're a tool using animal. And so the reason this fits with the Earth Gym is because we're asking people to stretch and tone with a stick and a stone, and now we're saying, now that cultivate that relationship, now craft your own gym clothes. So what kind of gym clothes fit in the earth? Things that are durable, things that last, things that you can build yourself. And so the beauty of working with the leather is, once again, the hides do direct you because of the way they are each different, and there's so much diversity. So I haven't put together kits. I've just set up scraps and things like that, and I've asked people what they're interested in. And if they're already barefooters, there's a lot of stickers around here, so I've said, well, why don't we make a barefoot sandal? And so it's just like, well, put your foot on, trace it. Does that feel right? Does that look right? Where would these holes go? Where would this lace up? And once they do it, it demystifies it, and it's been cathartic for a lot of people. Some people have been crying. I think it's been very healing for people, and I did not see that aspect of it, and that's been the gift back to me at this festival, is how healing crafting can be. And I really didn't see that piece. And so it isn't that hard when I break it down. Nothing is when you break it down. It just seems overwhelming when you see it finished. It looks so much. But I break it down, and they can do it in a couple hours. I mean, they could even do it faster if I didn't have 50 people at the booth. The lines are getting strong. But that's good. I want people to feel empowered, because once they build one thing, you start looking at other things. That's what my students tell me. I teach at the college where I live in Tahoe. And they say now they look at everything. They think, well, maybe I can make that. Maybe I can make that. Well, what couldn't I make? Like that lady said.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Unbelievable. Yeah, she showed us a video of one of her students here who had been a clothes designer, and just how emotional it was for her to be able to start creating on her own and tell that. Can you kind of share the story?
You know what? Lana will be back today. She came to the Earth Gym work, one of the classes down there, and then she came up and she wanted to craft a pair of barefoot things, but she wanted to be more like a shoe. And then she told me she had this background in design school. And it's very strict because they teach you how to draft. It's down to the 1/8 of an inch. Because I remember when I manufactured, my pattern makers were furious that I would just draw the sleeve, and they would have to dial it in if it wasn't right. But I usually get it pretty close because I started out in my craft. How I learned, people would come and they say, "Hey, could you make me a jacket or vest?" I go, "Hey, can you hang around?" And I'd build it right on their body, then take it off, trace it, and then put it together, put it back on, keep fitting. That's how I learned a pattern design. And so this girl, Lana, we started fitting it to her foot. She started getting the feel of it, and she had enough skill on the other side that she started taking off, and she was crying. I mean, she'll come back today, and you can talk to her. That'll be a cool interview because she's not quite finished. She wants to come back and put the buckles on. And she said it was very healing because she had felt locked into perfection. Things had to be perfect in school. And so she was having a trauma, like a post-trauma from this school, and it was making it constrictive, so she didn't feel like she wanted to design. And I just made it playful and fun, and so what? You did it this way, make it, use the scrap this way. Just let it be what it is. And that was freeing, and I didn't think of that so freeing, but it's like the water. So there's where it ties in. The water's so freeing. Once you get in the current and flow, relationship is the currency of all living systems. And once we start cashing in on that currency by sharing what we have with other people, and then they get in that current, things start flowing much better than just financial system. That's why I'm sharing it for, I guess, free, but it just feels like it's just a service. It feels right.
Beautiful. Well, you're, touching a lot of people through it. So, and also giving people real skills to, we were just talking to another one of your students who reclaims leather from couches and old jackets. She's dumpster diving and getting old leather and making clothing for her family out of it, and it's really amazing, especially to recycle and reuse again that material that's already out there. It's pretty awesome. You live in Lake Tahoe, as you mentioned, and one of the other things that you are so passionate about, as you again said, is water. And can you kind of just describe what you do up in Lake Tahoe in terms of how you are such a steward of the land and what you're doing to help the water above all else up there in such a beautiful, one of the most magical places in the world, Lake Tahoe area?
Well, I grew up in Santa Barbara, so I'm used to a beautiful environment. And then when I ended up, through a long story, ended up in Lake Tahoe, I didn't, at first when I used to visit it, I didn't really feel very welcome there. It was very crowded. I felt very pushed off as a visitor. Didn't really see it, get it, because I was used to just, 30 miles of empty beaches. So when I ended up moving there, a job actually moved me up there, I was like, oh God, Lake Tahoe. But then when I landed there in the North Shore in Easter, when nothing was happening, I thought, my God, this place is beautiful. Why didn't I know about this, Lake Tahoe? Why didn't I know about these adventures? And so I moved there, started falling in love with the lake and wondering who's taking care of it. It seems so clean. And then realized it was up to us. We were the stewards. The people that live there need to take care of it. Well, how do you do it? What's a watershed? What does all this mean? So I started learning, studying, going to all these organizations that were fighting each other, but all trying to help the lake and trying to understand why we didn't have a circle of clarity. Then I went to a conference, saw National Geographic present geotourism, and I thought, that's it. Get the visitors involved. It's the visitors. If the locals would help the visitors by leading by example, we take the bus, we bike ride, here's the cool places. We could get the visitors enrolled, we become stewards, we never have to clean up the lake or spend $2.8 billion every 10 years to clean it up. Wow. That's how much taxpayer dollars goes into cleanup after our recreation, our transportation, and our landscaping. So I went to this conference. I wasn't, I'm a fashion designer that's living in Incline. And at the end, after a lot of local arguments and all the important people that I didn't know who anybody was, no one knew who I was, National Geographic executive director said, okay, the boat's landed, I got to catch a plane. Who is going to carry this? Don't you want to do this, Lake Tahoe? And everyone's looking at each other, and I said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? And he goes, you're it. And I go, whoa. Wow. And then he calls me the next day after he hands it off, takes the plane. He goes, who are you, with what visitor association, a tourism? And I said, No, I'm a designer and I'm a corporate story coach. At the time, I was a corporate story coach, and I understood how story influences reality. And so if we don't like our reality, we change the story. So I felt I could coach the story of geotourism into Lake Tahoe, and it would be helpful. And that would be my service as my stewardship to the lake. So that's how it started. That's the fluke destiny that set the fire off. And then, unfortunately, I'm quite passionate, and I took that volunteer position very seriously, and I started doing the skill set I knew as a presentation coach. I started presenting, trying to pull people together. I didn't realize I would be coming up against the tourism industry that doesn't mind, getting that too. Anyway, so I ended up starting Sustainable Tahoe, which is a 501c3, and we demonstrate a geotourism menu. What can people do without a car? How can they get into the temple? How can they see our wildlife? I call it the 8 wonders of Tahoe: the land, the water, the plants, the air, the wildlife, which is our community, our culture, and our heritage. And those are the things people come for. They don't really come to eat, sleep, and shop. They're already eating, sleeping, and shopping at home. Yeah. But of course, they're going to get hungry, tired, and inspired once they have the 8 worlds. So how can we get them access to the 8 worlds? And so we came up with these geo-tracks, these magical guided tours that people could take that would help them see the bears, up close, or get out in a kayak, go through a marshland, understand how the ecosystem works, or go see the wild horses that nobody knows that we have, and all these incredible adventures. Well, then because I was sort of funding that's when I fell into a little bit of finance. So luckily, Airbnb saved me. And so now I'm a super host with Airbnb, and I've opened up my house to share, and I've had over 4,000 visitors from over 50 countries come through my house, and I demonstrate geotourism. So if the hotels, I'm working now with, I'm doing some presentations in Las Vegas, ironically, and as a geotourism host, to show people if you are not getting these kind of reviews, if you look at my 600 5-star reviews, it shows that people want to dump their car and get on the bus, bike, and the boat. They want to engage with the 8 worlds. They want to touch what is sacred in any place they visit, and then become a steward. Then we never have to clean it up. Then we can take the 2.8 billion and put on water ferries. So I've been just powerhouse on that. And
how long of a project would this be to eventually get to your goal?
Turning a barge, and it's really, the geotourism is 12 principles and 4 steps, and it's really the DNA of community building. If we love the places that we have, don't hide them and lock them out from people. Guide them to that love, because it's very infectious. And so it would be a year if I could get the tourism industry behind it, because they have the resources, they have the funding. But it's the political will. As Gore said, when the future looks back, if we have saved Lake Tahoe, it's because we made political will a renewable resource. And he's right. And Obama was just there. He sees how beautiful it is. We're saving. It's very easy. They've put geotourism on top. Man, I have pushed, but I've pulled back. I'm just leading by example in my own little Airbnb, and it's getting a lot of attention. I've got a book with all the magical places that are guided. I include bikes, kayaks, stand-up paddleboards, how to make your own sheepskin slippers, how to weave from a basket, earth gym practice. Nobody is hosting the way I'm hosting, and I'm trying to set a model, a precedent of how you need to really make it easy for people to access the magic and leave their car and feel the power of this water, and everyone will be healed in the process, and the water will be sustained. It could go very fast. It could go in a year if once the consciousness is there. Otherwise,
is it a matter, when we talk about political will, is it a matter of the pie, in doing your plan, would the pie change hands, whose slice gets bigger and smaller? And I mean, is that like one of the major...
That's it. In illusion it is, because the people on the ground that run the casinos, the ski resorts, who's going to move my cheese, right? But if they think about their long-term profit, I always hold up I'm like, this is ironic. This is my organization, Sustainable Tahoe. It works on trying to help, planet the 3 pieces, right? And our thing is the Tahoe Expo Exposition of Stewardship. But I grabbed this because it's water, right? Tahoe, we're selling water. And how we sustain this water will determine our survival and our prosperity. And so, to answer your question, really, if you want the long-term profit of this clean water, you have to stop these behaviors. You can't keep encouraging people. The number one thing is drive around the lake. That is the worst thing you could do for the lake. We don't want to drive around the lake. We want to bike and transit around the lake and solar ferry the cars, get rid of the cars. Don't make it. People drive so far to get there. Let them have a break. Help them get there. So the money is there. And the people could stay in their positions. The ski resorts could still run the resort. They just need to bus people in. They need to carry them. They need to make a different transport to get people to move around and enable that. And then instead of just, it's a very carbon intensive, the profit motivation is to just, the profit motivation always seems to be in our culture to just suck it dry. Yeah. And then, oh gosh, we're out of it. But Lake Tahoe can't afford that. And thank God we're near San Francisco. Those people want to stand up paddleboard. They want to kayak. They want to mountain bike. Yeah. And so I'm doing my part to up those type of recreational activities, bird watching, wildlife watching, best place to see the sunset, stargazing, things that are just, you can't get anywhere else because it's special there. You can get it special other places, but not Tahoe special, right? Yeah. It would make everybody more money. That you know why they can't see it? Because most people, when I talk to the resorts, they go, Jackie, if I can't put a chain link fence and charge money, why do I care? I go, here's why you care. You have a resort. You already are going to get the eat, sleep, and shop money. But people want to know what to do. They don't want to just eat, sleep, and shop. They're already doing that at home. Why would you travel to eat, sleep, and shop? You travel for magic, something else in the travel that's life-changing. Then you will eat, sleep, and shop. You'll still get the money. You don't want to put a chain link fence around it. You want to make it, I make everything free. I'm booked like crazy. When I started Airbnb 7 years ago, there were 3 of us in Incline. Now there's 300. I'm still booked. Why? Because I make it easy for people. It's like, don't even worry. I'm not trying to take away business from kayak rental and bike rental. I just get a taste. Any good drug dealer, right? Here's a try. And then you get them addicted. I'm just trying to get you addicted to stand-up paddle, basket weaving, bird watching, walking, biking, hiking, being, living, crafting. Just get greedy for the clean water and the things that bring that about, and then we'll all have prosperity, sustainable prosperity. They could be in on it, but they don't see it. They don't see it because it's like, well, you're taking something. No, I'm not taking, I'm adding. But the visitor will turn it. The visitor will turn it. I'm putting my money on the visitor, and I'm doing my part with my little slice and getting, 5,000. I've turned 5,000.
Yeah, incredible, Jackie. It's honestly, it's an honor to sit next to such a real warrior of the land, of the water, and fighting for this planet. And for the future generation of this planet is in terms of our species of human beings, because in the real big picture, it's really our existence on this planet that we're fighting for. The planet will be fine.
That's exactly.
The planet has been seen far more destruction than a couple of the pink monkeys walking around. It's gone through much, and it will always prevail. And so for you to be standing up for the planet and our sustainability and our long-term living on this planet, it's an honor to really talk to you and really appreciate you. So how can people best support you? Where can they find you? How can they support what you're doing in Lake Tahoe? And even how can they find what's going on with the Earth Gym? Where can people find that?
Oh, that's a great question, because I think most of our web presence for Sustainable Tahoe it crashed. I trusted the wrong people, but anyway, so we do have a Facebook page, Sustainable Tahoe, and I'm trying to build that out into something. We are a nonprofit. I just need to get our donation thing figured out, but I mostly want people to donate in their actions. Here's how you can help. Anytime you visit Tahoe or any place you visit, I think Airbnb is one great example. Get the local insight. Think of ways you can move around without your car. So many places do a better job than Tahoe. It's very hard. And think about choosing activities that sustain and enhance the places you visit. I mean, the best thing, I really do want to inspire people to just take inventory of that. And then the Earth Gym, MickDodge.com and the Earth Gym. We have a bit of a web presence, but the main thing, what you can do for the Earth Gym is start making friends with the earth. Go out and find a stick and a stone. I mean, the practice we're sharing is free. We're not really selling anything, but to remind you to fit your feet to the land and follow your feet, and the earth will teach. And we have lots of videos on YouTube to help you guide that. So we're really, I'm the most motivated to get that water in current, that flow going. And just to go back to something, I want to add one more thing. Like, just look at this one thing about Tahoe. When you said, would people be left out? And I even brought this to casinos, but I'd like to add a few more colors to it. So just imagine the casinos is very entrenched in Nevada, and they're like running out of gas because people aren't going to want to play. Your generation is not going to want to walk into a building, drop money on the floor, right? So they don't want to die. But they could, with all their money resources, think of games where people would walk in, just leave the casino the way it is, but no more smoking, bring in oxygen if you need to, or open the windows, make it a whole different genre, make it more Circus Soleil, maybe you have dirt floors, and all the games, people come and you only win when you work together. They're cooperative games where you work together and you win, and all the winnings goes to donate, to go back to wildlife corridors, to mitigate like that. There's a vision that the casinos could do. And as for people, when you go out, look for where the wildlife is and really ask. We want to do photo safaris. Let's load cameras instead of guns. Ask for that as a visitor. Because if we form lines around activities that sustain and enhance a place, we can turn this barge. Yeah,
I love it. This is the kind of, out of the box thinking that is going to get us to, right? Right, exactly. She just said it. Thank you, Jackie. Seriously, thank you so much for joining me. It's really been a pleasure. So, thank you.